Well, if you haven't heard in an article coming out of Israel today, the title is Israel to Accept Palestinians Reject Kerry Peace Plan. And the article basically says regional media reports over the weekend that indicated that Israel is set to accept U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's framework proposal for reaching a final status peace agreement, while the Palestinians are looking to stall or outright reject the plan. Israel's Channel 2 News reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon, and Foreign Minister Lieberman are all prepared to sign off on a non-binding version of the proposals, which, among other things, recommends 1. The division of Jerusalem through, though without going into specifics, 2. A gradual Israeli withdrawal from most of the West Bank while retaining control over large Jewish settlement blocks. 3. A limited land swap to compensate the Palestinians for the settlement blocks. 4. Recognition of Israel as a Jewish state. And 5. Compensation for so-called Palestinian refugees, but no right of return to Israel proper. Now, where the Palestinians have a sticking point on is the right of return for millions of Palestinians to Israel, and of course recognizing Israel as a Jewish state. Now, one thing that also should be mentioned is that over the weekend John Kerry threatened to bring about major boycotts and sanctions against Israel if they did not agree, but yet knowing that the Palestinians are going to reject this out of hand, no boycotts or reduction of the billions of dollars that is given freely to the Palestinian Authority every year was threatened against them, which I find to be not necessarily unusual, but I thought it was very uneven. It seems to be that every time something like this comes up that Israel gets slammed, if they are on the wrong side of the P5+1, but if the Palestinians are on the wrong side, which they are, they'll pretty much coddle them and there will be no sanctions, no boycotts, no talk of reduction of aid or whatever the case may be. And frankly, I don't look for this to be any different from what is going on in the past. And here's also another article I wanted to bring up coming out of Israel National News. Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas has suggested that the NATO troops would be left in charge of the future Palestinian state instead of an army. And the article states, speaking to the New York Times from Ramallah, Abbas said that he would agree to let Israeli troops remain in the Palestinian state for a transitional period of 5 years to work with Palestinian and Jordanian security forces and reassure the Israeli public that it is not going to get hit with thousands of rockets, as was the case after this disengagement from Gaza. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the length of time he thought would be necessary for Israel to stay in the West Bank was 3 years. Now that's been up to 5 years. It seems to me that this is probably even going to be up to 7 years, which I believe will coincide with what the Bible says, that there will be a 7-year covenant that will be confirmed by the Antichrist when the final peace accord is reckoned. But going on with the article, says after the 5-year transitional period, he told the New York Times the Israeli forces could be replaced indefinitely by an American-led NATO force, which I believe that's probably what would happen, or may even happen even before Israel gets out, with troops throughout the territory at every crossing and within Arab Eastern Jerusalem, along with Palestinian Arab police and security units. The NATO forces could stay for a long time and wherever they want, not only on the eastern borders, but also on the western borders, everywhere for a long time, for the time they wish. NATO can be everywhere. Why not? Abbas said. Last week, Thomas Friedman, who also conducted the New York Times interview with Abbas, published some details of Kerry's plan, which he said will call for a phased Israeli withdrawal from Judea and Samaria based on the 1949 lines, with unprecedented security arrangements in the strategic Jordan Valley. Now, as I've said, I believe that this phased withdrawal will be a 7-year phased withdrawal, which will be capped off with taking half of, or some part of Jerusalem anyway, East Jerusalem, for a capital for the Palestinian state. And it will also probably include international type of arrangement for security with the United States or whoever, probably the European Union, but with the United States backing it. Now, in discussing whether or not they will go beyond the April deadline, it says, it is believed that Kerry's framework is his way to convince the sides to continue the talks beyond the 9-month period that was decided upon, and that is to end in April. While the PA previously declared that talks will not be extended by even 1 day, Abbas told the Times that April is not a sacred date. And in closing out the article, it says that asked about Netanyahu's insistence that he recognize Israel as a Jewish state, Abbas said, "This is out of the question." He added that Jordan and Egypt were not asked to do so when they signed peace treaties with Israel. And frankly, I don't necessarily believe that's going to be something that's going to end up as part of this 7-year treaty either. I think it always has been. I think it's just a way to keep the peace accord from ever happening. I think that's the way it always has been for as far as Netanyahu is concerned. If he's not trying to get the Palestinians to acknowledge Israel as a Jewish state, then he's creating some type of settlement building type of scheme that will keep the talks from going forward. And don't get me wrong, I don't want the talks to go forward any more than Netanyahu does. I don't trust the Palestinian Authority any more than Netanyahu does. But at some point in time, Israel is going to be forced into creating a Palestinian state, whether they like it or not. So I guess the bottom line is that they need to get the most favorable agreement that they possibly can. Whether or not they will get the PA to declare that Israel is a Jewish state, I don't know, but I doubt it. But that's what I have for the peace accord as we speak right now. I don't know where it's going to go from here. Frankly, as I've told you before, I believe that eventually that I don't think it's going to go forward with the United States as the leaders of it. But we'll see what happens in the near future. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.